Oh man, I got some real unfortunate news for y'all. It really pains me to say this, but I think I've become a RWBY fan. Yes, I know this is a tragedy you might not have expected to hear today when you hopped out of the covers, but it's true. I've gone from not knowing what RWBY is, to being just a casual viewer, to liking the show ironically, and now I bought this for some reason. It's been a crazy journey since I made that RWBY video back in October, and now it's time to talk about RWBY once again, cause Volume 9 just recently wrapped up, and I mean, I'm sure I don't have to tell y'all it was one wild ride of a season. From weird chess games, to weird cat things, to weird mouse things, to weird paper things, there's a lot to unpack and analyze. And I'm not gonna do any of that, mainly cause I'm not smart enough. Instead, I'm just gonna talk about a few things that are interesting to me and just give some overall thoughts on the season. Of course, in the form of a neatly structured numbered list. Oh, and this time around, due to popular demand, I have all my full-length, uncut reactions to all the Volume 9 episodes available on Patreon, so check that out. I'll be showing some clips of the reaction footage here, so you can get the idea of my experience watching this season. But yeah, let's just get into it. Like and subscribe and all that. Number 1. Everyone was smoking that good stuff. So let's start off with the big theme of this volume, which is marijuana. Or I guess ascension, because, you know, this is a kid's show, I guess. Basically, the focus is transformation, self-actualization, you know, finding out about who you are and coming to terms with all that.
Herbalist, at least.
You said the what? My fault, yo. Herbalist? Got you.
Until I'm not anymore.
That means he got that ganj, you know.
Okay.
Alright, let me stop. Oh, no. He really ought that ganj, yo. Oh, nah, that might be that PCP. Hold on, whoa. So the citizens of the Ever After, you know, the fairy tale world where this season takes place, don't die, but they ascend and are able to undergo this metamorphosis into a form that fulfills what they really want to be. The big example of this are the paper pleasers that originally have this vulnerable form, and then they ascend and turn into these rock candy things you find at the state fair. The metaphor being that change is a good thing, and that you can be the you always wanted to be by dying. Except that isn't really what the show is trying to say. We can see that this change or metamorphosis also comes about by coming to terms with your past mistakes, as is the case with Jean, and also being honest with your feelings, which is the case with Blake and Yang. You know, we'll talk about them more later. But there's also RWBY, who we can talk about right now, because her change, or lack thereof, is the real focus of the season. Number 2. I can't believe how enjoyable it is to watch a small teenager's mental trauma. So let's talk about our main girl, Ruby Rose herself. I'm sure I don't need to tell y'all that Ruby has been going through it for the past few volumes, and really she's been going through it since episode 1. Remember how the show literally starts off with her getting robbed while minding her own business? Yeah. It was kind of a foregone conclusion that her life would suck. But in Volume 9, Ruby's life really sucks. The first episode starts off with this line.
This is the story of a girl who had a lot of problems.
Okay. I wonder who she could be talking about. And Ruby does, in fact, have a lot of problems. A bunch of her friends are dead, she failed to save Atlas, she's in a hopeless fight against an unbeatable enemy, she got her ass beat by Jessica Negri. I mean, it makes sense she's feeling a bit, you know, down. But this is the most down we've ever seen Ruby, and that's kind of the whole point of Volume 9, right? Ruby is finally facing the consequences of all her screw-ups, both physically and emotionally. And I say screw-ups because, yeah, it is her and the rest of Team Ruby's fault that we lost the Stannis Baratheon of this show. So now Ruby is in this situation where she has lost faith in herself and who she is. The whole bit with her getting jumped by Neo ends with her saying that she doesn't want to be herself anymore. She essentially commits suicide because the weight of her many failures have finally taken their toll. She goes through the process of ascension and is then asked by this character from the 2005 film Robots who she wants to be reborn as. She then finds out her mom lied to her about her last mission, but is then reassured by her, and then she comes to the conclusion that she just wants to be herself. And you're sitting there like, huh, so that was it? All that for Ruby to just learn to accept herself? Now, this was my thought too. I was a little confused, to be honest.
What happens if I choose me?
But what did she learn though? Why has she changed her opinion all of a sudden now? Because her mom reassured her, maybe? Is that all it took? Maybe Yang could have said something, that would have been nice. Wait, why is she all of a sudden like... reinvigorated now. All right, this is cold though. This is cold. This is cold. This is cold. You're telling me RWBY goes through all this self-doubt, falling into crippling depression over her many failures, all for it to end in her saying, well, I'ma just do me. I mean, yeah. That's basically it. It's kind of cool. You see, the Afterans go through this ascension process to become who they really want to be. And you're led to think that the show is trying to say that death is the process by which a person can change themselves. But when RWBY dies, in order to transform, she comes to the conclusion that instead of needing to kill the old RWBY and be reborn as something new, she just needs to be okay with herself. And, you know, thinking about it simply like that, it works for me, honestly. I like it. Now, it all happened way too quickly, and some of the details are a little, but I mean, it's whatever. It's fine. And if you watch some of the behind the scenes videos Rooster Teeth did, it's pretty clear that this was their vision all along.
Pare things down a little bit, you know.
The most crazy volume. Pare it down a little bit.
Back to the basics.
Yeah.
Extreme visuals, simple themes.
Yeah.
You know.
Extreme visuals and simple themes. That's the whole point. RWBY has to accept herself despite falling short of expectations. Very simple, right? And all of this is conveyed through the mess of, you know, reincarnation metaphors, talking mice and time travel, whatever, all that. It works, oddly enough, especially when you take a step back and think about the bigger picture. And speaking of bigger picture, number 3, I will never doubt the writers of this show ever again. At least until next volume. A big criticism of RWBY's writing has been that it just seems like the writers over at Rooster Teeth are, you know, kind of just making it up as they go along, and they're constantly backtracking on their mistakes and coming up with random arcs that lead to nowhere. Again, this all goes back to the idea that the current writers of RWBY aren't following Monty Ohm's vision for the show. First off, you can watch this video I made to see why that probably isn't true. Second, I think this season shows that the writers over at Rooster Teeth at least have some plan as to where this story is gonna go. Because we had the whole debacle at Atlas, which made a large part of the fandom collectively go, wait, do the writers not realize that General Ironwood is kind of in the right and that Team RWBY looks like a bunch of clowns right now? And now in Volume 9, we're explicitly shown that, yeah, Team RWBY did kind of fuck everything up at Atlas.
And yet with all your best intentions, have you ever stopped to wonder if you've done more harm than good?
That's true, but you hate to see it. The other problem arises with this seemingly insurmountable villain Salem and how hopeless the situation seems, with Ozpin having no idea what he's doing. Again, addressed in Volume 9, as everyone acknowledges that they really have no plan to save the day and that Salem is like 2 steps away from winning.
She doesn't know where the beacon relic is. Well, there's that to be thankful for, at least.
We lost.
He probably like, damn, it's been
the relic.
50 years since I thought about the main plot line.
Jean said so. We risked their home to save the relic, and we failed. Getting everyone out has to count for something. What good is saving anybody if Salem just destroys the world anyway?
That's how Ironwood thought. You don't mean that.
Are you done?
Yeah, but Ironwood was about to get results, yo. I've been Team Ironwood, bro. Not that they, like, I understand why RWBY did their shit, but that was a no. So this tells me that one of 2 things are going on here, and both of them are relatively good outcomes. Scenario 1, the writers of RWBY planned this out all along. Or at least most of it. They intentionally wrote Team RWBY to colossally mess everything up for like 4 full volumes straight, all to set up for this volume where their screw-ups catch up with them. All of it setting up for a change of direction, whether it be with, you know, whatever time travel shenanigans we may have saw at the end, or just having a renewed sense of purpose. It works out because this answers all the fandom's complaints about how Team RWBY were always being portrayed as the heroes who were in the right. This season basically shits all over that line of thinking and gives appropriate emotional consequences to their actions. Now, you might say, what about all those tweets about the writers desperately trying to make Ironwood into a villain and, you know, they're not understanding why people were sympathizing with him? Well, if you go in with the idea that they had this volume planned out all along, you can kind of rationalize it as a bit of clever misdirection to make RWBY's breakdown hit a bit harder. Now, I get that this is some pretty heavy copium, like heavy copium, but hey, I've been sucked into the fandom now. It's consumed me like the symbiote, so I mean, I'm taking all that in. But I mean, it's not crazy to think that they had at least some of this planned out from the get-go. We know that they had plans for the Ever After in volumes 1 and 2, and apparently Monty Ohm himself wanted the story to kind of take a turn like this into fairy tale world.
Way back in the day. This is like, I think between volume 1 and 2, we had this idea of like, yeah, we could maybe do an Alice in Wonderland kind of themed thing that was actually going to be a tangible place that was between the fall of Atlas and what came next. And that was, 8 years ago at this point.
Oh my God.
We kept writing, and we got to the end of volume 8 and Atlas falling, and we're like, well, we still want to do this, but maybe we'll do it a little different.
Now, if we're being real, it's probably like, oh, years ago on some lunch break, you know, Monty, Carrie, and Miles were sitting together like, hey, what if we had an arc in a fairy tale world? And that's about as deep as it gets. But for some reason, I just feel like giving them all the benefit of the doubt and that they at least have some grand scheme in mind here. It might not be perfect and the execution might be shaky, but at least I can assume there's some plan. Scenario 2. The writers of RWBY are backtracking on some of the plot and thematic mistakes they may have made in previous volumes. They realize they may have written themselves into a corner after the whole Atlas arc and are now trying to do a reset of some sorts. It's like, oh fuck, the fandom is siding with our supposed villain. We don't know where this story is going. Let's just take a break for a sec.
From an acting standpoint, just from Ruby's perspective, I like that we already had her kind of attempt to escapism or a little bit of a pause on all that disaster that's happening in front of her through the wishes with Jin. Now we get to experience that in a bigger playing field, a literal world that they're exploring in where you can divulge into your feelings.
Maybe things were getting too muddled and they realized they just needed to take a pause and address the character's emotional state and, you know, just add a little bit of weight of consequence to their previous actions. And this is a good thing because at least recognizing that your story needs a little reworking is better than what some other shows have done. If I'm being 100% honest, this is probably the more likely scenario, but hey, I don't know shit, man. I'm just some guy with bad skin. But again, I like to give the writers the benefit of the doubt because this season shows at least some level of self-awareness as far as writing goes. Number 4. So now that I've talked about most of the big picture stuff, I can finally talk about the big romantic relationship that came together in Volume 9. I'm talking about John and Weiss.
How did you find us?
How are you the rusted knight? And when did you get so
Mature.
Oh, hell no. Is that gonna be the shit?
What happened in Atlas? After the rest of us fell?
Oh, nah. He look musty, bro. He look homeless. Stop talking together. You're feeding the shippers. Stop reassuring him, Weiss.
Still incredibly brave.
White Rose. White Rose. Ew, now she's making him cry. Oh, no. I'm just... Imagine being that kind of person who's just like upset over ships in a show. No, of course I'm talking about Bumblebee. So at the time, I was pretty excited to see Blake and Yang finally get together, right?
You alright? I'll feel a lot better when we're together on that platform.
Message? Oh, I see what they're doing here. I see what they're doing.
Is it a password or something?
We gotta take that next step.
Platform!
You gotta say,
No luck?
scissor. Let me stop. That's crazy, y'all. That's a crazy thing to say. Shout out to Bumblebee, yo. Very cute, very
your
cute.
cat ears are cute.
Hey, same. Bumblebee. Bumblebee. Okay. That was really cute. I like that. And I still think it's cool. You know, Blake and Yang have a fun dynamic. They have a history story-wise, and I mean, they just look cute together. I do think the people who are saying the relationship feels a little rushed or forced aren't completely wrong. But at least for me, it feels believable enough, and that's all that matters, I guess. I will say that this confirmation of the relationship comes at a very strange time narratively. It comes at a time where everyone is at a low point mentally and emotionally. It seems like there are other bigger things to be worried about. Then it's like in the middle of the season, it's like, oh yeah, remember how y'all wanted to see him kiss? Here you go. Anyway, back to the plot. That was the only thing that was weird to me, but otherwise, you know, it's good stuff. Hashtag Bumblebee. Number 5. Anime girls swinging weapons around activates my neurons. Is it just me, or does the fight choreography look a bit different this season? Y'all know I'm not really one for action scenes like that. I mean, it all looks the same to me, but I was really feeling the sequences in Volume 9. I know this is something that's said time and time again, but it really does feel like those early Volume 1, Volume 2 fights. Oh my god, here we go. Oh my god, here we go! Is she gonna solo him? It's so great seeing all 4 of Team RWBY going on wacky adventures together again. I was so glad we got the whole gang back together right away in episode 1. Besides John, of course, but his ass could have stayed missing if you ask me. I was saying this while I was doing my reaction, but I feel like this whole escapade through the Ever After could have been great as a pre-Fall of Beacon arc. You know, like when Team RWBY is in the beginning of their careers and they get sent on a Villain of the Week mission to like this fantasy Alice in Wonderland world. It's like, oh my god, they have to fight in a chess match. Oh no, look, they got caught by a town of tiny mice. Ooh, whoa. Because I mean, I know a lot of us would have loved to just see more of Team RWBY doing stuff together. And maybe that's more in line with what the writers had in mind when they came up with this concept of the Ever After all those years ago. But now they decide to utilize this setting for a character-centric arc, which obviously works fine too. But it is nice that we get to see a bunch of those classic Team RWBY video game combo attacks, even though, you know, RWBY herself sat out for a bunch of them. We do get that Dragon Ball Z looking ass attack at the very end though, which is cool. That magical girl ship. Huh? Okay, hold on. One of the. Whoa. That magical girl powering. That's like the Powerpuff Girls, bro. Number 6. Miscellaneous thoughts and reactions. Okay, now for the segment where I just list out random thoughts and intercut it with random clips of my reaction footage. Let's see, what can I bring up first? I really liked RWBY Damian as the curious cat.
Oh, Your Majesty, it truly isn't fair. You must play your...
Is that RWBY Draymond or Damon or what?
What are you doing?
What are you doing? RWBY Draymond, what are you doing?
An empty host. Perfect for me to fill.
RWBY, don't be saying things like that. I like how they tied the lore together at the end too with the reveal that the gods were actually a creation of the Ever After. Because I know the fan theory while the season was going on was that the gods created the Ever After first before creating Remnant. And then you have that whole storybook theme continuing to run throughout with the Curious Cat and Alice, and then Little and RWBY being sort of parallels with each other with one having an influence on the other.
A friend. A guide. A protector.
Adorable.
They gassing him.
Do any of
The dick eating is crazy. Let me stop. Oh, he big as hell now. Nah. Get him out of here. He's too big now. I hate how big Little is. They can't call him Little no more. They gotta call him Medium or something. Oh yeah, I also found myself cheering for John for some reason when he was chewing out RWBY. I don't know. I kind of got caught up in the moment, I guess. He's not wrong.
Came for you.
He's not wrong.
Neo hates you.
He's not wrong.
Let's not forget the reason we're in the Ever After in the first place.
He's
It's
spitting.
because of your plan that
He's
didn't
spitting.
work.
Also, on the topic of RWBY's meltdown, I like how they made Weiss and Blake look almost frightened and afraid of RWBY when she's chewing him out. Because, I mean, you know, since RWBY is usually the emotional pillar of the team, to see her cook the fuck out of them must have been like seeing your mom suddenly blow a fuse at you or something. It's also kind of wild how Weiss has officially become the comic relief punching bag.
The only way out is to resolve the problem or wait until the storm passes.
They had like zero reaction. What if Weiss just died right there?
Okay.
That
I asked for that.
That could have been death. Wait, what? I mean, her character arc is basically over with at this point, so all that's left for her to do is some wacky slapstick comedy. Whoa. Also, shout out to Blake, man. I don't know if y'all watched my first RWBY video, but Blake was like one of my least favorite characters in the whole show because I thought she was really boring and I was pretty uninterested in her storyline. But now that her character arc is basically over as well, she's sort of stepped up to be like a leader and a new emotional pillar for Team RWBY. Now she's the one doing the whole, just stay positive, guys, we can do it. You know, that whole thing that RWBY usually does.
Yang's arm was stolen. I think we focus on getting everything back. Then we can figure out exactly how to get out of here.
Hey, okay, look at Blake being a leader. Bro, I will say, it's crazy how much Blake has grown on me this season. I think it's the fact that she's not just like a nothing, like just depressing. She's like, she's low-key acting as a little bit of a leader, like besides, because RWBY going through a little emo shit right now, but Blake out here being an actual character. She's proactive. She's taking charge. She's joking around a little bit too, you know, trying to rizz up Yang a little bit. I'm like, okay, Blake. Also, as much as I like to cook John as a character, I will admit he was pretty fire as the Rusted Knight. Huh? That looked like my Elden Ring character. And he riding Arceus, the Pokemon. Nah, what's the deer one? She said that's the rusted knight. Oh, he do look rusty. Although I do think the fact that he's mentally 20 or 30 years older now is kind of wild, and I don't know, maybe they should have made a bigger deal of that. I mean, they kind of do, but after they revert his age back, which I still think they shouldn't have done just to have some visible, lasting consequences, it just made me sit there and think like, oh, I hope they don't forget he's literally a middle-aged man on the inside whenever Volume 10 rolls around. Oh, and finally, how could I forget? The OP is dope too. But yeah, otherwise, I think that's all I really wanted to say. There's so much to unpack. I wish I was smart enough to do that, but there are other YouTubers out there who are, you know, actually good at that sort of thing. I'm literally an alcoholic divorcee who almost flunked out of high school, so I don't think my opinion on anything should ever be taken that seriously. All that being said, I really enjoyed RWBY Volume 9, so I'm happy to just ramble on about it for this video. There were a boatload of problems that I could probably nitpick at if I really wanted to. There's all those weird tonal problems. It's like, why isn't Yang more upset that her sister's having a breakdown, and a bunch of other stuff like that. But I don't know, for some reason with RWBY, it all just works for me, no matter how messy it gets. I don't know, I can't describe it. But yeah, Volume 9 is easily the best volume for me in a long while, and hey, I can't wait for Volume 10. If you enjoyed this video of me incoherently talking about RWBY, leave a like and subscribe for more content. And remember, all the uncut full-length episode reactions for this volume are available for $5 Patreon subscribers. And there's also a bunch of other reactions on there for other shows if that's something you're interested in. But otherwise, that's the video. Peace. One more thing, I'm so sorry, but who the fuck is actually watching this Justice League RWBY crossover thing? Like, huh? Like, what? The Red Like Roses theme shit. So, okay. Please be a post-credits if it's over already. Post-credit, yeah, of course.
Grim in the forest.
I've never seen anything like this. We fought monsters before.
I know they're not giving us a commercial for this musty-ass collaboration. Sorry if this is like something you've been looking forward to, and I mean, who knows, it might be fire. But I, for the life of me, can't figure out who the audience is for that movie because it sure ain't me. I don't know, like I said though, it could end up being dope and I'm just a hater, but I'll never know because I'm not watching.